So hello, my name is Debbie and I'm here this afternoon with Robert Gebka, the Director of the Dorset Mindfulness Centre. Hello Robert.
Hello Debbie. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Do you have any tips that you could share with us about dealing with difficult situations that we might face?
Using mindfulness?
Using mindfulness?
I think I can. I think the first thing when something of great challenge and intensity comes in our life, we can just be swept away by it, and we don't even realize what's going on.
No.
So it just comes like a wave, and it's very difficult to make sense of what's happening. So I think the most helpful thing to understand is just to recognize that's what's happening.
Yeah.
We are reacting to something stressful, we are reacting to something of some difficulty, and give ourselves space to actually experience the stress, give ourselves the space to go through whatever it is that we need to go through.
Yeah.
So the first stage is always just acknowledgement, just acknowledging that, all right, we're having some kind of a difficulty, that we are being triggered in some way.
Yeah.
Something is bringing up a lot of discomfort, something is bringing up difficult emotions or difficult thoughts, or it's bringing up our old habits. So very often when we're under stress, we don't realize that we're stressed.
No.
Very often when we're depressed, we don't realize that we're depressed until somebody else points that to us.
Yeah.
So this kind of acknowledgement can be very helpful. So that's the first thing that we can do to help ourselves in the situation.
Okay.
The second thing that we can do is to, rather than getting lost in this kind of reactivity, we fight the stress, we try to make it go away, and sometimes that is what we need to do. Sometimes we need to remove ourselves from a certain difficulty, sometimes we need to challenge things face on. But once we realize that perhaps that is not helpful, then one thing remains, and that is to switch from this kind of quality of fighting it to really begin to understand how can you work with it, how can we begin to flow with it more creatively.
Yeah.
And the only way we can begin to flow with it creatively is when we can step away from this kind of reactivity, this kind of guess, this kind of fight or flight reaction. How to step away from that? Well, the first thing is just doing some practice. Just taking 5 minutes or 3 minutes, doing some deep breaths. And it might feel like we really don't want to do it at that time because the stress or the situation might be so intense. So, we might want to distract ourselves, we might want to do other things, but actually, if we do the opposite, actually just take a few deep breaths, sit with it for a while, then...
And can you do that anywhere?
You can do that anywhere. You can do it, even in the midst of the situation. You can always take a deep breath.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think that's two things that you can do. One is acknowledge that, all right, there's a difficulty, there's some kind of a trigger that has caused us all these uncomfortable feelings or thoughts, and then just give ourselves space. Give ourselves space to step back from it. Do a bit of practice, even if it's going for a walk, or if it's just taking a few deep breaths, or doing some mindful movement, or a short mindfulness practice. Just to switch from that sympathetic nervous system, the guess, the fight or flight, to the parasympathetic nervous system, because it's in that state of mind where we can be aware of other possibilities, other solutions, more creative ways of working with the situation. But when we on the guess, on the sympathetic nervous system, there is no scope for clear thinking, there's no scope for creativity, because the amygdala part of the brain, which is very much associated with experiencing fear or intense emotion, overrides the cortex part of the brain, the higher brain function. So that's why we can't think clearly, that's why we can't make rational decisions. So we need to wait for things to subside. We need to wait for things to calm down.
Okay, thank you, Robert.